In section 25 of Counsels and Maxims, Schopenhauer takes up the question of the difference between being loved and being revered or venerated by other people. Here's what he writes. La Rochefoucauld makes the striking remark that it is difficult to feel deep veneration and great affection for one and the same person. If this is so, we shall have to choose whether it is veneration or love that we want from our fellow man. Their love is always selfish, though in very different ways, and the means used to gain it are not always of a kind to make us proud. A man is loved by others mainly in the degree in which he moderates his claim on their good feeling and intelligence. But he must act genuinely in the matter, and without dissimulation, not merely out of forbearance, which is at bottom a kind of contempt. This calls to mind a very true observation of Helvetius. The amount of intellect necessary to please us is a most accurate measure of the amount of intellect we have ourselves. With these remarks as premises, it is easy to draw the conclusion. And I think, for the sake of people following along, the conclusion must be that in order to be loved by the people, we must moderate our claim on their feeling and their intellect. In other words, we must lower ourselves to their intellectual level and not ask too much of them. That is to say, that to be loved is precisely to have sacrificed some of your intellectual integrity and power. Schopenhauer continues. Now, with veneration, the case is just the opposite. It is wrung from men reluctantly, and for that very reason, mostly concealed. Hence, as compared with love, veneration gives more real satisfaction, for it is connected with personal value, and the same is not directly true of love, which is subjective in its nature, whilst veneration is objective. To be sure, it is more useful to be loved than to be venerated. That's the end of the section. This interesting set of contrasts here. There is a very Nietzschean point, I think, here about the value of inspiring a certain kind of admiration by other people through the quality and strength of your inner character and your intellect, but that this kind of admiration is wrung from people like a sponge, almost unwillingly. They have to concede that you are exceptional, that they do revere you, but for this very reason, this is concealed. They don't openly express this attitude. That seems like an observation that Nietzsche, the psychologist, could do a great deal with. Love, on the other hand, he says, the people's love is selfish. So to have affection for you, this requires that you not demand too much of them in terms of their feeling, in terms of their intellect, that you, as I said before, lower yourself to their level. Obviously here, between veneration and love, Schopenhauer is suggesting to prefer the harder path of being venerated, of being a person of true quality, whose quality will call forth this reverence on the part of the people, but not necessarily their affection and their love. Another helpful contrast here, an obvious contrast, would be with Machiavelli and his observation about being feared and being loved. Both Schopenhauer and Machiavelli both seem to be leaning upon the premise that the vast majority of people are just bad, and this badness will drive their behavior and their love, but the wise person needs to understand this and adjust his expectations accordingly. So very, very good reflection, I think, on this observation by La Rochefoucauld that veneration and affection are not normally attached to the same person. So we should be mindful of the difference between them and the difference between the conditions that inspire them and their utility. So that's the end of section 25 of Counsels and Maxims. We'll look at section 26 in the next video. Thanks for watching today. Goodbye.